Elana Freeland, welcome to Our Geoengineering Age.
Well, it's Mr. G what is it? The
Our OGA.
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 OGA. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
OGA. That's what our dear friend Ian Baldwin, whom you know, likes to call our geoengineering age, OGA. Yeah, that's
OGA.
yeah, and our mission, as you know, but just to remind our listeners and viewers, we at our geoengineering age are all about an evidence-based exploration of the world's most pressing but underreported
Yeah.
global environmental issue, which is, of course, geoengineering, or what some call weather and climate modification. And I think of you, Elana, as the matriarch of research in this space, because as many of our listeners and viewers know, you have written extensively, 3 books of
Yep.
extensive
Yep.
about geoengineering, along with a lot of other topics too. But now have a 4th book. It's not even out in print yet. I'm just holding up the cover. It
Hmm.
says Geoengineered Transhuman, and the subtitle is Burly: The Hidden Technologies of HARP, Chemtrails, 5G, 6G, Nanotechnology, Synthetic Biology, and the Scientific Effort to Transform Humanity. And if ever there were a subtitle that captures what we're up against, that's the one. And last thing, this new book, The Geoengineered Transhuman, is being published by our very own Vermont independent publisher, Inner Traditions, which is literally half an hour down the road from our podcast studio here in central Vermont. So we're just so excited to talk with you.
Oh, and I'm so happy that Inner Traditions found me because first of all, it's the first time a publisher ever approached me instead of me approaching a publisher
Amazing.
and said that he had been watching me for quite some time. And so I felt like, the prettiest girl at the dance for just a few moments. And
Oh, I love that.
and then that they have done such a magnificent, in fact, that's why the book is late. It was supposed to come out in the summer, but when they began sending me the edits,
Yeah.
I looked at the edits and realized that I really needed to rewrite 3 chapters. I needed to strengthen them and be more direct. And so that's what I did. And I took the time to do it. They let me take the time, and then they bumped me ahead for 6 months to another publishing date, which is just fine with me because I don't know if I told you, Rob, but I'm kind of writing in an era of non-readers, which we have had. And I think we're gaining some readers now that we've been through the last 4 years because they realize that's the only place they're going to really find out what the story really is in books. I really wanted to write for the future when they look back and say, how could they have let this happen
Mm,
right in front of their faces
mm, mm.
and not do anything? And that's who I'm writing for, really. And that it takes 4 books. Heck, I didn't know that years ago. I
Yeah.
had no idea. But
Yes.
each book gave birth to yet another one, right?
Well, I remember at the end of our last interview a year or so ago, Alana, you said, "I'm done," or maybe it's 2 years ago. And then you told me via an email you're writing a 4th book, and so I think you just answered the question as to why you're
Yeah.
writing for the future. And I really felt that in reading your new book, The Geoengineered Transhuman. And if I may be so bold, you are writing for the species.
Yes. Yes, it is. It has shifted because if to cut to the chase, Rob, if you read my first book, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth in 2014, when I was writing for Feral House and Adam Parfrey was still alive,
Mhm.
I was trying to make it so that people understood pretty much my level of understanding. I mean, that's the thing with a writer. You have to follow their level of understanding. They're not going to throw big things out. They might throw clues out
Mm.
of what they're going to be discovering for the next book. But each book really bumped me to a new level of, oh my gosh, and it's this. Oh my gosh, and it's this. Oh my gosh, and it's this. Until I returned in this fourth book to the Morgellons.
Yes.
That was revealed in the last chapter of the first book. And here you see it under, I think, synthetic biology and nanotechnology, because Morgellons is both. So I came back to that because I realized that Clifford had been right. Clifford Carnicom, the scientist I've worked with and been friends with for all these years, 15 years or so now, maybe more, and and realized that this was an assault on humanity and that this was directly tied to transhumanism and the Ray Kurzweil boys.
Mm.
You know, the fact that Google is right next door to uh, Kurzweil's university. I can't remember the name of it now. And it just all sort of like gelled in my mind
Mm.
that I needed to show this was actually what people need to understand is that we're sandwiched between two delivery systems. We're sandwiched between what's coming down from the sky, and we're breathing and drinking in our water supply and eating in the GMO food supply, and even the organics are affected by it. So it's a full-on epigenetic assault.
And
And
the
we're
shots. Let's not
huh?
forget the shots. The
Huh?
shots.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and the arm thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love this the metaphor you just used. I've never heard you say this before. The sandwich,
Yeah.
as above, so below, in a
As
way.
above, so below. And that is always the sign of the esoteric
Ah.
who are involved. And of course, I harp on, love to use that
Pun
word,
intended. Pun intended.
pun
You
intended.
harp.
I harp on the presence of secret societies that Americans are pretty oblivious to, much more so than the Europeans
Mm.
are
Mm.
oblivious. And so that comes to where you have to go another level. And that's what this fourth book does. When Inner Traditions approached me, what they wanted me to do was to basically break the only book I own the copyright on, which is the third book, and that is the Geoengineered Transhumanism,
Mm.
how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals. I can't remember the whole title, but it's like the one that they composed that you read so well for the fourth book. They wanted me to sort of split it down the middle. And when I looked at the book originally to do that, I saw that, yeah, it's pretty neat and tidy. The first half of the book, 300 pages, because the book is 650 pages of the third book. And that was geoengineering. And then I shift to the biology and the assault that I'm seeing that Clifford had foreseen by studying about 25. I'm thinking we had about 20 in 2005. We had about 25 people in Santa Fe
Mhm.
where we were collecting their blood and their saliva in order to see if this nanotech Morgellons, badly named, but probably I would guess named after the 18th century skin ailment called Morgellons by the CIA, would be my guess, because many people don't realize that the CIA was the original owner, I think I would be accurate in saying, of patents that had to do directly with the establishment of HARP in Alaska. And who told me that? Billy Hayes. You remember Billy
The
Hayes,
harp man.
don't you, Rob?
Yeah, and let me just identify HARP is an acronym that stands for High Altitude Active Auroral Research Project in the small town of Gakona in Alaska. And your first book, and people are like, who've never heard of HARP, like, what is that? Go read Elana's first book. because it's all about that. And Billy Hayes was essentially a whistleblower who became your close companion on that journey.
Absolutely. And Billy was the one who was sort of the angel on my shoulder
Yes.
throughout the writing of the second book, which came out in 2018, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And that also was Feral House. So those two books are still, you would think that we've outgrown them, but no, these are the basics. And the basic in the second book, after Billy heard me on Coast to Coast, after the first book came out, and said, I have got to contact this woman because I know where they're taking this. And so that was sort of the drama going on as you put out a book, and it, and I put it out through a publisher who is not known for scientific works, by the way, because no one else would give me the time of day.
Yeah.
And so Adam Parfrey took a chance on me and required me to use the word chemtrails in both of those titles, because that sort of was a conspiracy term at that time, and it was a tinfoil hat term that the CIA liked to implant on people who were questioning what the geoengineering program really was. We didn't even have the word geoengineering at that point. So that came out. Billy contacted me. Billy then stuck with me through the second book, Under an Ionized Sky, as he explained exactly how Lockheed Martin's space fence basically controls our brains and our behavior, and how they set up frequencies, namely the 4 hertz frequency, through HAARP to pulse the planet with as a sort of surrogate ersatz Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance, 7.83, is our brain. That's what our brain operates at, the frequency, and they were replacing it. And that was also a key clue to me that we were going much further than just using the global warming, climate change narrative as a way to sort of do a deer in the headlights on people regarding the entire assault going on through the environment, an epigenetic assault.
Yeah. And let me pause you there for a moment. It's very important for our listeners and viewers to fully sit with the reality that we humans, as all living, breathing creatures are, we are beings of frequency. We are resonant electromagnetic creatures. And we never learn this in school. Even the bro podcasters, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but the Dr. Andrew Hubermans of Stanford University are totally focused on the chemical. There's no interest in the electromagnetic or the electrical. And there's tremendous good work out there. You cite so many good books and scientists who are doing this work, but they're under the radar by design. So for people who are wondering, like, what is she talking about? The Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz, the Earth's frequency being replaced by electromagnetic frequency technologies designed and patented by deep state organizations. What is? Begin with the premise that we humans are resonant. We are electromagnetic, as all creatures are. Take us to the third book, Elana, and then we'll jump into your new one.
All right. So after I did that book, Billy and I were doing a lot of radio interviews, podcast interviews, et cetera, together. But increasingly, Billy was attacked while on the air and given grand mal seizures. And I knew who it was. The CIA felt it owned him. He had been MK Ultra since he was a little boy. His father worked for the CIA. Billy never had a choice in that. They were always, well, listening to our conversations. And I was allowed to walk free, but Billy was getting pummeled. And I remember the day he called me and said that I don't know if it was Air Force or Navy, they had picked him up in a chopper at his place in Kansas where he lived and flown him. It was a C-130, I remember, and had flown him to Alaska to see the Tesla dome that they controlled over HARP. And so, this was kind of a fun thing they did for Billy because they felt like he was their pet dog, and had this amazing programming from MK Ultra of total knowledge of what electromagnetics can do and what they were doing. So he was very excited. He loved it. He loved going up there and seeing this huge plasma dome over all of southeast Alaska, where he was, where HARP is. So that kind of thing was going on a lot with Billy. But by the time the grand mal seizures were happening and radio hosts were being freaked out, they did not want somebody dying on their show, is what they told me.
Wow. And to be clear, when you say Billy Hayes was attacked, you mean he was attacked by electromagnetic weaponry.
Yeah, DEWs, we call them, directed energy weapons.
Right. And again, for people who are like, what? DEWs.
Now, whether or not he had an implant, I would assume he did because he's old school MK Ultra. There's a whole new breed now that are being done completely remotely. Billy was not one of those. He was done on military bases and in DUMS. Let's see, DUMS stand for underground tunnels where they have total labs and highways and cities and you name it. So anyway, Billy was, and that was very hard for him. And I basically dumped him. I told him why. I just couldn't continue doing that. And then by the time the third book came out, I sent him a copy of that one. I sent him a copy of the second book. I sent his son, once Billy was dead, a copy of the third book. And, I cannot tell you how indebted to this man I am. Tremendous help, and completely.
You dedicated at least one of your books to him.
Yes, I have tremendous affection for him. And because I know that we reincarnate, I will see him again and we will fight together again. He need not worry about that. So that leads me to the fourth book. Okay, why the fourth book? Well, like I said, Inner Traditions wanted it to be simpler, more easy to understand, less footnotes, not so long, et cetera, et cetera. They had a whole grocery list. And as I started writing it or sort of reshaping what I already had, I realized I wasn't going to be able to do that. I was going to have to write this baby all over again and take it to where I wanted it to end, which is to set the stage for the book I'm writing now. And that is on synthetic biology. And of course, geoengineering plays a co-pilot to that. It is not about geoengineering per se. It is actually about the assault on our blood, how angry I am about that human 1.0, Homo sapiens, is under assault from the sky and from the inoculations. It's all big pharma. Come on, let's really look at what big pharma is. It's the chemical industry. That's what it is. It all goes back to IG Farben, the beginning in World War I, chemical warfare in those trenches in France, killing an entire generation of European youth. So this is our enemy, and we all know that pharmacopoeia, the pharmacy, pharmaceutical, all those words come from a word that means spells. binding things and living organisms with spells. So let's get straight. This is the again a disguised good versus evil setup, and I know which side I'm on. And you know, we have to give it all we have is how I read that.
Yes.
There's no middle ground anymore. It's not being allowed. And people who are claiming the middle ground and sort of watching from the sidelines as the Titans duke it out along, you know, in whatever way they are deceived.
You're familiar with the environmentalist. He's a real environmentalist and poet Wendell Berry in
Oh,
Kentucky.
yes.
He has a beautiful moment in his 2001 little essay, Life is a Miracle,
Yeah.
which he wrote as a critical response to Harvard entomologist E.O. Wilson's notion of consilience, that we should use science as the unifying paradigm for all human experience, which is, of course, what you're writing about also. But Wendell Berry says in Life is a Miracle, I was arrested by this sentence. He said, I can foresee a time, now this is 20 plus years ago, I can foresee a time in the very near future, Berry writes, where humans must choose between living as creatures or living as machines.
Very good. That's really
Like he
good.
saw it all coming.
Yeah.
In his own way.
Yes.
Part one of your new book, I got to hold up the cover again because it's so amazing. Is called Nanotechnology in the Sky with Diamonds.
Yeah.
And you're riffing on the Beatles. And I
Yeah.
got to shout out to your Sub Rosa America series, because in those novels, which I encourage everyone to read, I want to read them for a second time, you go fictionally, you go deep into kind of the pop culture side of what you call Sub Rosa America. And you turned me on to this Laurel Canyon book about what was going on there in the 50s
Oh
and
my
60s.
gosh.
Like
Yeah, that's Dave McGowan. Dave
yeah,
McGowan.
the Manson murders were like the very, very, very tip of that iceberg. But anyway, I just want to read a little bit from your book, Elana, if that's okay, the introduction, because
Oh, yeah.
you lay it out so beautifully. You say this: the public has been deeply misled about climate change, global warming, your quotes, and carbons. The three primary cover stories that purposefully hide the truth that chemtrails geoengineering is neither a conspiracy theory nor solar radiation management requiring carbon dioxide removal. In reality, you write, in reality, geoengineering is a weapon system whose wireless ionized atmosphere is maintained to serve the creation and control of an AI-driven planet and its transhuman human 2.0 energy source.
Yep. And to back that up with
Yeah.
someone more professional than I, remember in 2012 in The Guardian when Matt Anderson, the former executive advisor in aerospace and defense for Booz Allen Hamilton, one of the top 10 defense contractors in Chicago, he says it straight out. I mean, what happened between 2012 and now, where it's all these terrible lies that just don't even put you to sleep, just cause you to rage over the audacity to lie to the public of a so-called liberal nation. He says, this is in 2012, few in the civil sector fully understand that geoengineering is primarily a military science and has nothing to do with either cooling the planet or lowering carbon emissions. While seemingly fantastical, weather has been weaponized. At least 4 countries, the US, Russia, China, and Israel, possess the technology and organization to regularly alter weather and geologic events for various military and black operations, which are tied to secondary objectives, including demographic, energy, and agricultural resource management. Indeed, warfare now includes the technological ability to induce, enhance, or direct cyclonic events, earthquakes, drought and flooding, including the use of polymerized aerosol viral agents and radioactive particulates carried through global weather systems. Various themes in public debate, including global warming, have unfortunately been subsumed into much larger military and commercial objectives that have, and I would add medical there, that have nothing to do with broad public environmental concerns. These include the gradual warming of polar regions to facilitate naval navigation and resource extraction. Now, there's a guy who really knows.
2000, that was more than 10 years ago, in The Guardian, which is the UK's most prestigious paper, by a guy who knows because he's an insider with the military industrial complex. That is an astonishing.
It's incensed. He's incensed. I can tell he's
Yeah.
not emotionally venting, but no, I can tell he's incensed by what they have done with this technology. I mean, imagine what you could do with weather control. And by the way, remember, thanks to Clifford Carnicom, we know that weather is only the first operation of geoengineering.
Yes, I wanted that's a beautiful pivot, because in part one of your new book, you lay out this what you call the 7 geoengineering operations in service to the secret space program, and you give Clifford Carnicom, Carnicom, for those who want to look up Clifford Carnicom, the carnicominstitute.org. Let me just quickly read the 7 and then ask you to comment, Elana. Number 1, geoengineering is about weather and climate modification. Number 2, it's about chemical and electromagnetic use. Number 3, it's about planetary and geophysical use. Number 4, we mentioned directed energy weapons. Number 5, surveillance and neural manipulation. You mentioned this with the Schumann resonance being replaced a few moments ago. Number 6, nanotechnology, digital synbio, synthetic biology, and transhumanism. And number 7, very much in the news all of a sudden, cloaking detection of exotic propulsion craft and plasma life forms. So those are the 7 geoengineering operations that you, courtesy of Clifford, bring to public attention. And we've talked to you and I about this before, but do you have any new kind of revelations about those 7 to share? Certainly, people are claiming to see drone sightings, whatever those are, all over the country this week, here in the middle of December 2024. What's your new revelations for you on this?
Well, what's going on is they're normalizing geoengineering, and they very well know what I'm out here writing, and I am kept muzzled by what's the word? Ignominy? Is that how you say that word?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Basically,
an editor. I know an editor knows.
Infamy. You're being demonized.
Yeah, being demonized and marginalized, and it's not hard to do, because I'm really not in your face. I'm a writer. I'm so busy writing and providing the mental space for which I can push my imagination and my what Rudolf Steiner calls the consciousness soul, which is not the same thing as my very good intellect. This is another part of me that has more to do with my spiritual being, and putting that in with the imagination into these, how do I tell people, how do I translate what this really is for those who are actually still human? You know what I mean, Rob? That's how we have to think now.
Yes, human, you refer to human 1.0. I think of you as what I call a team human champion, because you are defending Homo sapiens, the species, Homo ludens, whatever we want to call ourselves. You are defending the species from the very rapid encroachments of these, let's say, transhumanists. And I have a quote from your book from Ray Kurzweil. I think it's Singularity University, by the way.
That's
You,
it.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but before we get to part two, the tethering the transhumanist future, I want to mention in part one of your book, you talk about geoengineering, you talk about these drone UFO sightings, you talk about the wildfires, directed energy weapons. You take us on kind of a rollicking tour, I would say, of your comprehensive work to date, but with new information,
Yeah.
I would say. And you have this beautiful line, I wrote this down: carbon is now taking the rap for the 30-year ongoing chemtrail program. Carbon is now taking the rap. We're blaming we're blaming perhaps the most important respiratory gas on Earth, for carbon dioxide, which we are in this beautiful exchange of carbon and carbon dioxide with the plant kingdom, 20,000 breaths per day for us humans. And this is somehow causing all of our ills. It's insane.
Well, I have unlocked that mystery, Rob, and I think it's this. Yeah, they're using the word carbon, which it is about what you just said, and it is also about the nanotech that because carbon nanotubes, CNTs as they're called, are are the guilty parties, you might say, of the nanotechnology that is we are breathing in, is going into our bloodstream, is ending up in our blood through our blood-brain barrier. This is carbon also, and it is replacing, let me be straight,
Okay.
this is replacing our natural body. And we are being turned into, we always knew that it would include silica, that the silicon would be part of the robotization of the human being. But
Mm.
I think we got kind of sidetracked by the fact that the media is completely Operation Mockingbird, i.e., controlled by the CIA, which, by the way, folks, is not an agency. It is far beyond an
Mm.
agency and has been from the beginning, given that it was founded by Nazis.
Mm.
So now we're when they're saying all that about carbon, they're not really talking. It's kind of a clue, like, hey, yeah, look over here. Here's the plants. That's the carbon oxygen exchange. But we're talking about what we're building, what we, the gods, are building as a
Yes.
way to make a new creature, a new transhuman
Gosh.
2.0. And that is almost all carbons, almost all. There's what, the guy who alerted me to that was the wonderful herbalist in Canada, Tony Pantalaresco. And Tony, has done the lion's share of probably giving people a second chance at life who were the weak, perhaps the weakest members of us, who
Mm.
were getting all this skin ailment called Morgellons, but it was really not a skin ailment. It was that the skin was trying to save people as a way to siphon off this carbon nanotechnology that we were first hit with through the geoengineering. It wasn't a matter of an inoculation. It was a matter of what was coming down from the sky primarily. And it was in the water and it was in the GMO foods. Always the GMO foods are involved in this. And, the fact that I won't even get off on that. I'm going to go deeply into that in the
In your
synthetic
new book.
biology book.
Yes, and
So,
again, carnicomeinstitute.net, Clifford has done the groundbreaking research here on Morgellons, which he renamed, and you have brought this to our attention, cross-domain bacteria,
CDB, yeah.
CDBs. And the mainstream media mistakenly, well, propagandistically referred to as delusional parasitosis, among
All
other
right.
terms.
Sent you to
Because
the
when
psych ward.
Yes, because when people had these little synthetic fibers coming out of their skin, and you've reported on this for 15 years now, it sounds like a sci-fi movie. They,
Well, it
yeah,
circles back to the synthetic biology that I am now
Yes.
concentrating very, very heavily on.
Yes. Yes. And this maybe would be a good opportunity to pivot to the second part of your new book, and the title, Tethering the Transhumanist Future.
Yeah.
Just to review what you just said, I wrote it down. It's so brilliant. We're moving from a human being 1.0 in vivo, real life, carbon-based life in a natural sense, to a in silico, human 2.0, transhuman phenomenon. Is that a fair summation?
Yes, and the word in vivo is there's in vivo and in vitro, and up till now, the lie has been that they have not been utilizing human beings or animals.
Mhm.
They have done in vitro this and that and this and that. Well, that's a lie. They've been working in vivo. In vivo means life inside the body, and utilizing all of us for decades. So, let's get clear that power will lie in order to get more power. That's just how it is.
Yes, and
If someone is powerful and you know them and they still are a human being who has a responsibility to their species and others as guardians, as gardeners of this planet, then that's well and good. Those are very rare people. They are generally knocked off of the ladder that everyone's furiously climbing in order to be as gods on the earth. And I would add Rudolf Steiner's idea, which I think I'm definitely going to develop and talk about in the new book, the idea that the human being is a place where it must be changed by these gods because they want only to keep the so-called human beings who are tethered to the earth. And that's why I have that word tethered in the
so
title,
so
is
good.
that they are actually through, and it's primarily through carbons, these these CNTs, and magnetism itself, of the electromagnetism that affects us from the ionosphere, which I remind you, Rob, is completely controlled now as a weapon system. And the magnetosphere is greatly controlled, I don't know if entirely, by places like places like CERN. CERN is sort of in charge of the magnetosphere, along with other types of transformative places like it. And so this all goes back to, and I want to connect it to the Soviet astrophysicist Kardashev.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to understand that the dream is big that they have. Their dream is our nightmare, as I say. And so they want, first, Kardashev says, to have a true space age, you need to control your planet. That's full spectrum dominance. I bring that up in the very first book. That's the doctrine that runs all this. The full spectrum would mean primarily the electromagnetic spectrum, but also the spectrum of society, the spectrum of politics, the spectrum of whatever that adds to planetary control. So that's first. Then once you have control of your planet, now you need control of your star, which would be our sun. And they are doing that. So how did you enjoy that Ersatz solar event last summer? Oh, you thought it was real. You thought it was natural. Well, it wasn't. It was completely geoengineered. And so everything that comes through NASA now as news of solar events, whatever they are, we all have to be in doubt about the truth of that as to at least where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Because the ability through chemistry, electromagnetics, and nanotechnology to control the entire atmosphere and above to a degree, not entirely, but to a degree. That's what the backroom boys are always working on. And that would include, to me, a very important group that everyone should know exists, and that's the Jason group. Those are the elite scientists who are generally looked for in childhood. So if you're proud that your son or your daughter has been selected by NASA or Bill Gates or whoever to attend a special seminar in which they are just so brilliant that they're being taught early to be blah, 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 you'd better be suspicious. You'd better watch out for that child's safety from MK Ultra types of intercessionary things that are being done to these kids. So, that whole thing is all a matter of what I call, and I constantly say it, I'm sure people hate me for it on my social media, I say, wake up, wake up, wake up. And if you're awake, stay awake, stay awake, stay awake. I'm like a broken record. That's what I mean is it's not, I don't mean that you get out of bed in the morning and you're like, yeah, there's a lot of powerful people. I have to watch out for the ones in my life. No, I mean the entire thing. You'd better begin to pay attention to to what's really going on sub rosa. And that's why I called that series Sub Rosa America.
Pay attention, pay attention to the transhumanist project.
Yes, because it's in motion now, Rob.
Yes.
I don't know if you realize that, but I make it quite clear, and I will definitely be referring to it in this next book. That inoculation of the last 4 years, the boosters, etc., with the fake and unfake various diseases that they say are coming down the pike, that they're sending down the pike, at least in a digital form.
Yes.
And let's be clear, they're moving from molecular to digital biology. So yes, that has to do with frequency and code language. That those inoculations initiated the first transhuman generation.
Yes,
and when people go ahead.
You're anticipating right where we want to pivot to the what I call the COVIDtopian moment. But before we do that, I wanted just to read again from your book, The Geoengineered Transhuman. You quote at the beginning of part 2, tethering the transhumanist future. You quote Ray Kurzweil, author of many books, but this is from The Singularity. The singularity refers to the merging of humans with machines, technologies. The singularity is near when humans transcend biology. So there's a little aspirational vision there for us. And you quote him saying this: the matter and energy in our vicinity will become infused with the intelligence, knowledge, creativity, beauty, and emotional intelligence of our human-machine civilization. Our civilization will expand outward, turning all the dumb matter and energy we encounter into sublimely intelligent, transcendent matter and energy. So in a sense, we can say that the singularity will ultimately infuse the world with spirit.
Oh, isn't it awful?
It's
and when he says spirit, spirits, everyone thinks good spirits.
Yes.
They don't think what we have now, which is certainly there was a book, and I don't know that I told you about it. It's called it's by Thomas Meyer. He's a German anthroposophist, who a Steiner person who is clairvoyant, has been from birth. And he and about 50 other clairvoyants are hearing appeals either through their sleep life, dream life, through other people calling them, of people who have died after receiving the vaccinations. And these people are begging for help because they are beyond the threshold. So let's kind of look at death for a moment. Because when people kept saying to me, "Oh yeah, they're going to wipe the population out. That's what this is, a depopulation, or at the very least a culling." I said to them, "Hey, these are, in Pfizer at the top of the board, or at the top of the group in the scientific circle of people actually working on a microbial level, they know that just killing people is not going to do what they need for the planet." Mm-hmm. So what I mean is, they're worried about reincarnation. They're worried about people coming back. Mm. In a way, it's just a recycle operation here on Earth. Mm. You're here, you learn a few lessons, you have some pain, you have some suffering, you figure it out, or you don't figure it out, and then it's time to die. And my picture of death is sort of an envelope being slipped under a door into another room.
Oh, wow.
That's my
I was
picture.
thinking of the karmic wheel.
I don't have, no, maybe I'm avoiding that by the envelope idea. But
I like the envelope under the door.
Yeah. But you enter another plane of consciousness, because we are spiritual beings living in bodies. As Madonna sang many years ago, before she was made witch number one, I'm a material girl in a material world. And so that whole thing now is they are concerned about death. Now, that in Sweden, they have euthanasia. And now, we're getting articles about the two injections that the law requires, actually may not be doing what these materialistic doctors think it's doing, and that it's actually a spiritual assault. So they want to change not just life on Earth, but they want to change the way you get here and get off of here. Wow. This is a God dream that they have. So they will hold human beings here through the carbons that we were talking about, like the CNTs, and the carbon bodies that we have, the silicon and carbon bodies that we have as self-assembling, and then we will never go to the spiritual world, which, according to Rudolf Steiner and others of enlightened souls, say is our true home. This is not our true home here. We visit here many, many times. It's sort of a school. I think of it very much as a school, not a prison. Right. I don't think of it that way, because that part gets to your godlike part, where you have choices, you have powers. When Jesus said, "You shall do greater things than I," I mean, that's pretty big words. So, but we want to keep our evolution our own. Is what crazy Elana here has committed her life to. Yes,
and I love this. And can I quote your book, quoting Rudolf Steiner at the end for a moment, because he writes this: in the future, this was 100+ years ago, from Rudolf Steiner. In the future, we will eliminate the soul with medicine. Yeah. Under the pretext of a healthy point of view, there will be a vaccine by which the human body will be treated as soon as possible directly at birth, so that the human being cannot develop the thought of the existence of soul and spirit. To materialistic doctors will be entrusted the task of removing the soul of humanity.
We're there. And the fact that he foresaw this, I mean, I'm under no doubt that he was the Christian initiate of the 20th century. And he was gotten rid of early through poisoning. We now are absolutely certain. And he died at 64. So we continue with the books, with the thought forms, with the meditation exercises. Yes. We continue the fight, and that's as it should be. Yes. So the idea for the fourth book is is like this, Rob. Okay, I'm going to go into synthetic biology, and I'm going to talk very much about how you and I can tell the difference between, because it's not in the papers. I've read, I don't know how many papers and patents. It's not there. The difference between what is natural and what is synthetic. They are erasing that difference. And it's not in the language. You will rarely see it. And I just finished a book, and I actually wonderfully was in Boston just recently and set up a meeting with him because I found out he lived in Boston. And it's this book. Let me see. Why is my screen doing something weird? Well, anyway, you can see it, right?
Yeah, I see it.
His book is called The Sleeper Agent, The Rise of Lyme Disease, which preceded Morgellons, by the way.
Yes.
Just barely. Chronic illness and the great imitator antigens of biological warfare.
Wow.
And in this book, he basically tracks and completely studies and lets us know about a Nazi biochemist named Erich Traub, Traub. And the book was twofold. One, I was completely blown away by the amount of research this young man did, A.W. Finnegan. And I also had an exercise waiting for me because I've been very influenced by Tom Cowan and Andy. What's Andy's last name?
Andy Kaufman, Dr. Andy
and
Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman.
Yes.
And I had I studied Chinese medicine in my 20s. That's the kind of person I was.
Yes.
I wanted freedom from the great white doctor, and that I had experienced when I was 13. I can honestly say I have not been to a doctor since I was 13. I abandoned Western medicine in favor of traditional Chinese medicine. Okay, so even there I learned there is no virus. That's a Western imagination, the Western contrivance.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But in here, he does believe in the virus. So I began to concentrate on when he was using the term virus and what the words were around it, and made some pencil marks and that sort of thing. So I get to Boston, and we meet, and he's not at all like you would expect a science type of guy to be. He's a Cape Cod guy. He's a carpenter, works on different projects with different guys, picks up money here and there, lives a simple life, but has really done his homework. And who is he published by? Well, he's published by Trine Day. And I know the guy who runs Trine Day. That's Chris Milligan.
Wow.
And I know, I have to say it, I know that Chris is from a CIA family. And many people may think, well, so what? That's his family. Well, that's not how it works. So I keep it in mind.
Yes.
And when I met the guy, he's just a wonderful guy, just a wonderful, simple guy who, once he gets his science mind on, just blows you away with his detail and the language and the certitude. And it was a wonderful experience. And he signed my book. I have a signature.
Oh, look at that! That's
great. And I gave him a copy of mine and signed his. So.
Oh, I love that. I have to ask you, where did you two meet in Boston? I know that town pretty well.
Well, I was staying with a friend of a friend who very kindly put me up for a few nights.
Nice.
He came to me, but he drove an hour and a half from the Cape.
Wow.
And he lives approximately in the middle of the Cape.
Okay.
So, I took him to lunch, and we had a wonderful time, and respect. And I brought up the virus problem. I said, I don't think there is a virus, but while I'm reading your book, what I was realizing is almost every place I came across you using the word virus, I could have made a case that there was gain of function manipulation there. So
Yes.
now I said, what I'm wondering is it possible they're using the word virus for a gain of function adjustment of either a protein or a bacteria?
I wanted to ask you about this, Elana, because, and this is maybe a good pivot to the CV-19 moment in your book, which, if I may read from it again,
Yeah.
you write this: COVID-19 was never about a deadly novel virus, and then you put in parentheses gain of function, spreading across the
Yeah.
planet. It was always a graphene enhanced acute irradiation system activated by cell phone phased array antennas and 5G, 6G, with the solution being an mRNA end run around the immune system to fool it into accepting synthetic materials and objects disguised so they won't be recognized as foreign. Last sentence. It was about injecting nanoscale biometric application programming interface technologies, referred to as bio API, bio API,
BioAPI. Yeah.
bioappy by the technocrats, which are essential to the transhumanist human 2.0 neural network. So, if I'm correct, Elana, what you are saying is that this whole COVID situation was the launch
Yeah.
of the transhumanist project in earnest. Again, back to the sandwich metaphor, as above, so below.
Yeah. Yeah. And through electromagnetics. And
Yes,
that's the important part. Is yeah, yes, the chemistry is involved.
yes,
Yes, the nanotech is there. Yes, there are all sorts of things. But let's if we start thinking of our remedy of how we're
please.
going to stay human,
Yes,
then the first step, and it's not the only step, believe me, but the first step has to be you minimize your electromagnetic footprint.
yes,
You have to,
yes.
because you mentioned at the beginning, and a lot of people do this, that we are electromagnetic beings. That's not quite accurate. But we certainly have an electromagnetic part of us. Yes. I think we need it in order to think.
Can I rephrase that? Because you're
Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
think we are creatures of light and we are creatures of water. And it's the electromagnetic energy that infuses us and brings us to life, and how we as creatures of being in light interface with both the positive and negative aspects of electromagnetic energy seems to be what's on the table in part. Is that
Right.
better?
That's better.
Okay.
That's better because then if you think of us as electromagnetic beings, uh, yeah, that doesn't sit right with me. But remember, I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner, so I
Mhm.
subscribe to his vernacular and some of his concepts
Mm,
that I understand.
mm.
And one of the important concepts, which is pretty far out, you've got that book. You've got my Geoengineered Transhuman. Hold up the back cover.
Oh, I don't.
Look,
I just have the cover on paper.
no, not that one. The third book.
Oh, I don't actually. It's in my other office.
Oh, okay, never mind. On the
Sorry.
back cover, and I don't have a
Yeah,
copy near either.
yeah.
On the back cover is a very strange little guy. He's in color, and he has. You notice that he has a very zigzag body, and he has like a chakra at each of the points where the zigzag goes.
Mm.
And I don't do anything, Rob, to explain it.
It's just there. I
I'm
remember
such
this.
I'm such a joker. I'm such a joker. This is a figure taken from a stained glass window in the Goetheanum in Dornach, Switzerland, that Rudolf Steiner ordered, and this is Ahriman. This is the Ahrimanic creature that Steiner borrowed in order to explain evil. He
Yes.
sees evil as being in this planet of duality. And I think I don't need to explain that. Do I up, down, in, out, over, under, acid, alkaline. I mean, there are so
Above,
many
below.
polarities here,
Yeah.
and we're all on at least 1,000 spectrums
Yes.
of duality here. But to explain evil, he saw it as being luciferic and Ahrimanic. So you have the luciferic is expansive, the Ahrimanic is contractive, basically,
Mm. Mm.
and there's a lot that goes from there. So this this Ahrimanic creature, the doppelganger,
Yes.
the double, we call it the double
Yeah.
in the West, but it's doppelganger. Um, says Rudolf Steiner, enters us during our first breath of life.
Mm.
As we enter the planet,
Mm.
we come out of our mother, and then that first breath is our real entry into this planet. And now the Ahrimanic creature, which cannot really change itself, transform itself without being in a human being, enters us. And in a way, we can't really do the thinking we need to do without it. This is the electromagnetic part of us. And
Ah.
it will remain with us, says Steiner, until 3 days before our destiny time to leave the planet, and be the envelope slipped under the door. These are thoughts that most people don't have. And how I came to believe these are true is many years of steeping myself in the wisdom of this Christian initiate.
Yeah.
It's not a pill, and it probably makes more trouble than you want. But the fact that we have an entity in us
Yes.
is that those cartoons that I remember from the 50s when I was raised without television, but now and then I'd get a chance to see a cartoon show at a friend's house, and you see the devil is on one shoulder and the angel is on the other shoulder, and the cartoon character is like, oh, which way shall I go? That's sort of our dilemma here.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it is.
And the other moment from cartoons, since you brought it up, is when the physical cartoon creature gets knocked over and maybe is near death. The spirit of the cartoon
Yeah,
creature leaves the body, right, in jest.
yeah.
But there we are. And we have to, you and I, Elana, we have to do a whole separate episode just on Rudolf Steiner.
Yeah, I think so.
Truly, because you and others have gotten me into Rudolf Steiner's universe over the past many years, and so I'm certainly by no means an expert, but I every time you bring him up, and I have to say too, this fourth book of yours to
Yeah.
me feels like the most spiritual of your four on
It will be.
geoengineering.
It will be
Yeah.
because I have been asked by many people who somehow get hold of me. We want to hear from you, not
Yes,
just all the footnotes
yes,
and
yes. And by the
proving.
way, yeah, when you publish a book, Elana, it's really like you publish two books because there's the book, but then there are the footnotes. And when
Yeah.
people ask me about reading you, I say, look, you're getting two books for the price of one, let me tell you. So
Yeah.
let's bring this home. I want to just give you, by way of sort of my last question, which is how then do Team Human champions conduct ourselves? I'm using the word conduct verb here, right? A little bit provocatively. And at the beginning, at the end of the book, you have this moment I just love. You say, imagine a Spartacus uprising of human beings. Imagine a Spartacus uprising of human beings in sync with the good forces to defeat the synthetic juggernaut that wants to turn all of life into electromagnetic nodes in the AI run space fence. I just love that. But then,
That's right.
going all the way back to your book's introduction, this is very Steiner-esque of you. You ask this question at the beginning of the book: is the divine model of Homo sapiens worth saving? Let's rethink what it means to be human in a technological era, including how far the scope of evil now extends, to your comments of a moment ago about Ahriman and Lucifer. And then you write this: I suspect that those reading a book like this hear a call to life. You italicize that call to life that may be impossible to silence even now, when nature is not now as it hath been of yore, as recorded by 19th century English poet William Wordsworth in Ode Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood. And you drop a little Wordsworth here. There was a time when meadow, grave, and stream, the earth, and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream.
I do love that verse.
Yeah, you're going to make me cry here.
I know.
It's so good.
So yeah, I think this book, I know this sounds crazy, Rob. I am going to, not this, now that the build up here, let me finish that. Yeah. Okay, so you'll notice in the second half of that book, the second part, that I then start this, and this is where I rewrote 3 chapters, remember. I then start this push to set up the next book, which is the one I'm writing now. I call it an addendum, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Much more than a postscript.
Yes.
And now I'm going to really roll my sleeves up and get into the medical part of what is going on with this from this side and from the jamming side. And is there another option? First of all, I say limit in this book, the Geoengineered Transhuman, I say limit your electromagnetic footprint. Okay, very important. This has to be done in order to prepare to work without the medical industry in toto. And I don't mean a compromise with this medical industry. The West has failed in its understanding, beside the fact of the evil empire coming in and wanting to completely do without. I mean, Ray Kurzweil is serious. He wants he wants it gone, humanity gone, and replaced by what, for one benefit, would be that you could get through the Van Allen belts to get the heck off this planet and get out in space. We have never done that. We did not go to the moon. We have never been able to manage those Van Allen belts because of this wimpy body, supposedly.
So if we're gonna catapult humans to Mars, Elana, what you're saying is, Muskian style, Kurzweilian style, we actually have to replace humans 1.0 with transhumans 2.0 to get through the Van Allen.
Yes, and that's my guess as to why some of the batches were different from other batches. Is they're working on several options, the same way as they started the communist thing and they started the Nazi thing. They're trying experimentally.
They're iterating.
Yeah. So if we're going to try to live as humans, a remnant, I'm now calling it a remnant. I have faced the reality of where we're at. People are so hypnotic. People are so mind controlled from space now. I'm surrounded by them all the time, and it's from space and the jab, both converging on a software hardware. What's it called?
Wetware.
Well, it's a warfare, but it's about how we're controlled through digitization, really. And this is a very serious thing, because what will happen to your the real you that goes from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, developing, evolving, helping other human beings evolve, foreseeing this whole I mean, human consciousness is tremendous, so much more than in the West we are ever allowed to imagine.
Yes.
And yet, now they're trying to run it, and they're going to keep us tethered to the planet. No, there will still be reincarnation, but we cannot anymore trust our experts. We must give that up. The mommy daddy model has to be. We're moving into an adult situation,
That's right.
and we can't just depend on Elanas and Robs and people to say, yeah, go this way, go that way. No, we can't do that. We have to change how we live. Many people indulge themselves tremendously in the West in food and drugs and TV and media, and we really have to look at that of what is the cost of doing this indulgence? Mm-hmm. Who's going to be carrying me through this life? And then I will owe them big time next time.
Yeah.
Do you really want that? Do you really, really want that? No, you don't. You want to be grown up. And it took me a long time to grow up because I was so damaged as a child. I was 45 when I finally was able to remember what I needed to remember and set it down and be done and take up what I really came to do, which is what I'm doing now. So let's have some adult thought forms here in order to see which direction we go. And that's what the next book will do, is tell you how to do that from my vantage point, and then tell you, take up what you want from it. This is just me and my wisdom. Don't be slavish in any way. And in every situation you have where you're allowed an AI to write your essays or write your reports at work or any of that, don't do it. Do everything on a human level.
Yes. First of all, I'm so glad you're writing a new book about this topic, because you and I have talked for years, and I've listened to you on other platforms talk about this for years, taking radical responsibility for your destiny.
Yes.
And I'm using the word destiny in a very, direct existential sense. Um, and yes, I work still barely in higher education, so-called. And what I'm witnessing, as we all are with artificial intelligence, right, is a complete end run around the human creative process, which is one of the defining features of Homo sapiens, is that we are unpredictable, we are spontaneous, we are creative, we are co-creative with all living beings on this beautiful earth of ours. And to take that away from us is just so grotesque.
And to weaken our will.
Yes.
That's what they're really doing. That's what this model has done. Skip the communist model of browbeating people into submission. No, just give them all these pleasures, all these conveniences, all these comforts. Just give it to them, and they'll be so happy. I'm such a success. And meanwhile, they're not paying attention to the very thing they should be paying attention to.
Yes, it's Aldous Huxley's Brave New World on steroids.
That's the model.
Right? As opposed to George Orwell's 1984, which we're all taught in school as the bad fascist communist totalitarian state.
And they gave us those two models at the same time.
Yes,
to say, take your choice, because we're going there.
Yes, and I'm reminded of the brilliant philosopher Hannah Arendt. She's a complex figure, but in her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism in 1950, she said, the next version of totalitarianism will not come from the left. It will not come from the right. It will come from what she called dull, faceless bureaucrats in white coats. The technocrats. And she was right. She called it.
She was right.
She called it. Well, my gosh, Elana Freeland, we could talk all day. Can I ask, do you have a working title for the new book that we could?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Remaining Human, colon, the nano-synbio assault.
Oh my gosh, Remaining Human.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm going to have to send you a link to my little book. I just put it for free online called Beings Human, A Most Miraculous Conspiracy.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll send
send
it.
away.
Well, last question. So, for folks who want to keep up with you, you have just a couple of places where people can go. Remind us
Yeah.
where those are.
Yeah. Okay. So to get the books, I'm
Yes, please.
highly recommended that people get them through the little tiny, not that one. That one will be the publisher.
Okay.
I don't own the copyright for that. But
Okay.
the other books, including the Feral House books, are handled by uh, the Rudolf Steiner bookstore in Seattle. It's a
Yes.
tiny little thing in somebody's backyard, actually.
Yeah.
But he does send them out, does a beautiful job, and is very much behind me.
So,
So
Rudolph.
I
Yeah.
recommend that, and it's also the only color version you can get. You go on Amazon to get the Geoengineered Transhuman book number 3, and you will have black and white. So it's the only colored version of the 60 illustrations that you can get. Okay, so that's that. Then I do 2 social media. One is my one Facebook that they are still allowing me so far. I took down 2 sites. And this one is called EMF, Planetary Engineering.
Okay.
And that is, you have to ask permission, my permission to join, and then you're in. So and then the other one is a relatively new one, a Patreon site, Elana Freeland Patreon site. And I think that's all you need to know in order
Yes.
to get into that one.
Okay.
And that is free and $10 a month. It's your choice, but truthfully, I give everybody everything. And I'm commenting there as well. And the 2 are pretty much identical, though I do put more on the Facebook because I don't know how many thousands of people are there. But anyway, so that. And that is about all I have time for. There's a lot of other things I can do. I am doing like your radio thing
Yes.
we're doing now, and I'm doing quite a few of those now. But I'm going to start writing in earnest through the rest of the winter, and I can't promise how I'll be in that. So that's it. And I may be doing a talk down in the Southwest in LA. Some ladies are discussing, if they want to take that on again, like they did last time. But that time I had 16 talks, and I was terribly targeted and had no energy and was projectile vomiting, and it was all electromagnetically done, by the way.
Yes.
It was not CV-19 as they call it. And this time I'll just do a few talks and then come home and continue writing.
Are you still in conversation or in touch with Clifford Carnicom in Santa Fe?
Oh, absolutely. But he's not in Santa Fe. He's on the road. He and his wife spend summers in Montana near her family, and then winters they snowbird down in Arizona camping. He's hard to get hold of. It drives me crazy sometimes, but he deserves it.
Yes, he does.
For all these years.
Is the Carnicom Institute still in play? I mean, I know the website.
Oh yeah, if you go to the site, there's brand new papers. Read the ones on blood. He's working with the same doctors I'm working with. We didn't get that far. Anna Mihalcha, MD, PhD, David Nixon, MD, Australia. Anna lives 13 miles from me.
She does. I was going to ask you, Humanity United Now. I know her work. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's just an amazing force, just going for it. And so she's looked at my blood. It looks like crap, like everybody else's that she's looking at.
Yeah.
And even though I'm a health nut, blah blah blah, it's really impressive. But my energy, I have no sickness. I mean, I'm fine.
Yes.
But the consciousness, when you're involved in consciousness like this, you're getting tremendous energy input.
Yes.
It's I thank those gods and angels and whoever, dead people and whoever is doing that. Thank you very much, because that's what we need. We need to live in such a way that we have the silence of the mind without TV and cell phones. I don't own either, never have. And I have my one computer that I need for my living and for getting online and finding out what's going on this cutting edge that is constantly producing now. And you can't go anywhere to find books. You can't go to any library. You can't go to any graduate school course where you're going to get the truth. Mm. You're on your own now, you know, and I always have been on my own, and I love it. But anyway, I'm working with those doctors. I go to the microscopy group that David Nixon offers from Australia to see what people have come up with. There's about 30 people who are there who are coming up with photos, fantastic photos they're taking from their microscopy work on human blood, on various medicinals that you're not being told have been, they've put something in it. They've put CV19 in everything. It's in animals. It's in you know, it's unbelievable, the assault. We'll see what happens with this new regime, but so far it's not promising.
Yeah. Well, Elana Freeland, we're so glad you're out there doing what you are doing, being who you are being, and wishing you for 2025 much silence, much stillness, much creativity, much ingenuity, much spontaneity, and really looking forward to your fourth book, The Geoengineer Transhuman, getting out into the world, and then of course your fifth book. So thank you for everything you do, and looking forward to being in conversation next year.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Elana.